Donald Trump just wrapped up a speech at the American Legion National Convention in Cincinnati. It was the first time he's spoken since last night's hardline immigration speech, in which he insisted to an Arizona crowd that Mexico will, in fact, pay for his proposed border wall. I'm joined now by former DNC spokesperson Mo Elleithee. He also served as a senior spokesman for Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign. Mo, the speech last night that we heard on immigration, I think people expected some, weren't certain about other parts of it. What's your reaction?
Yeah, it was interesting because
I think even his own campaign wasn't quite sure what to expect out of last night. When you hear the rhetoric that was coming from his campaign spokespeople and their surrogates, it was, no new policy, just a softer language, not a softening of the policy, just a softening of the words. What we heard last night certainly wasn't anything soft. It was, he came at it hard. He came in hot to that speech.
It was to that base.
He was speaking to that base, and this continues to be the fundamental challenge, I think, of the Trump campaign. It's almost cliche now, but general election strategies are about addition. It's taking the base that you came out of the primary with and adding new voters in. But as you just referenced in the last segment, he's actually losing people right now. Members of his own Hispanic Advisory Council are getting turned off by what they heard last night and what they continue to hear from him. So he's not pursuing a strategy of addition. It's a strategy of subtraction, and that's no way to win a general election.
So for Hillary Clinton, obviously the Hispanic voters she may have already had, but there are the Republicans out there that are not certain of where to go. Yet her unfavorables are at an all-time low. How is she able to take advantage of the fact that Donald Trump is also an unlikable candidate?
Yeah, so I think there's two parallel tracks here. First is when it comes to Trump, right? This guy is so unpopular even amongst a lot of Republicans. And if I'm a sort of mainstream Republican voter who's not comfortable with Trump, I look at yesterday between the two events, between the trip to Mexico and the speech in Arizona, and I probably walk away feeling even more nervous than when I walked in. And there's a lot of sort of mainstream Republicans who are saying, I just can't pull the lever for that guy. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to jump to her, right? They might stay home. What she needs to do is make sure, not take her foot off the pedal when it comes to defining Trump, but this election can't be entirely an election or a referendum on Donald Trump. She has to make a positive, affirmative case for herself. She needs to be out there talking about what she wants to do for the future, why she's the person who's going to be a champion for middle class and everyday Americans, because she needs to provide an alternative to Trump, to those people who are not comfortable with him. If she wins, she also needs to govern, and she needs to begin to chip away at that trust deficit that the polls show that she has.
Does she need to be liked? I mean, it seems like a simple question, but does she need to be liked in order to get elected, or at least more favorable?
No, you don't. Not to be elected, in part because we're living in an age right now where nobody in politics is really liked, right? I mean, the entire political system is unlike.
Which is what's helping Donald Trump at this point, is people do not like politicians.
But at the same time, the mistakes he's making are ones that I think people are looking at and saying, we wanted something different, but that ain't it.
Okay.
And so she can win without being liked, but that's not going to make the next phase easier. She's not going to flip her favorable ratings between now and then. But if she can begin to narrow the gap, that will put her in a stronger position after the election, should she win.
One of the things we saw yesterday after Trump met with the president of Mexico, she had tweeted out about blowing this opportunity, his first on that stage with a foreign head of state as a presidential candidate. What is the strategy there? There was a lot of talk that perhaps it was this idea of inciting Donald Trump. What is the strategy?
Well, look, I think she said that a little bit in her acceptance speech at the Democratic Convention when she said, do we really want to give the nuclear codes to a guy who can be baited by a tweet, right? And he's been taking the bait every time. So there might have been a little bit to do with that. But I think there's something bigger there. And that is, people do want a steady hand as commander-in-chief, do want a steady hand on the global stage. The Trump campaign was feeling pretty good this morning, thinking, you know what, we just put him on a stage with a foreign leader and he didn't fall off the stage, so we'll call that a win.
Many said he looked very diplomatic and presidential in a way.
But I actually had a slightly different take. I actually thought a lot of people might look at him and say, oh, okay, he's standing there, he looks presidential. I think there are a lot of other people, though, who might have seen that and felt a little embarrassment. Like, is this really the guy we want to have on stage sitting down across the table from foreign leaders? And I thought that point was amplified by the Mexican president's tweet after the speech, right, where he said, no, we actually did talk about the wall, and I said we would not pay for it.
Right.
Trump got upstaged by the Mexican president by Twitter. Now, that was a smart political move for the president of Mexico, whose approval ratings are low. And now he can say, I stood up to the Republican nominee for president of the United States. I think Trump ended up looking weak.
Mo, we appreciate the time and the talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.